Welcome to the Technically Speaking channel. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button. You can also head to technicallyspeakinghw.com for details on each episode, as well as the ebook that has more than 150 product design and UX terms for free. When it comes to product and UX design interviews, there's a laser focus on the case study where you're walking through the whole design process from the problem space to the ideation to the execution, and then sometimes iteration and talking about your learnings. Now, when you start to think about the interview process, the case study is really the main part where if you're interviewing an on-site, that's where everybody usually is involved. So the whole interview panel, and there may even be some folks that are on the team that may not be necessarily in a one-on-one with you, but they also may be looking to see if you would be a great fit on the team. Now, I do think case studies can be limiting. Well, let's think of the reason behind a case study. As a manager, case studies are really important to have an idea if you have proficiency around the design process. A lot of times, these concepts aren't really new to the interview panel. It's really for us to gauge if you have a sound understanding, thinking about how the strengths play an influence in your decision-making, right? Whether it be from the methods that you use, pivots in the project, and driving value really start to play a role in the decision-making process. This is extremely important. And I would probably say, you want to make sure that you have a sound case study because it's about storytelling and connecting the dots. But one thing that doesn't necessarily come out of the case study is things about you. Now, as I mentioned before, when you are in the on-site interview and you're presenting in front of a lot of people, that's an opportunity for people to really gauge and really kind of understand who you are. But it's a good opportunity for you to help seed conversations later on. Now, what does that mean? After you do a large, wide presentation, you may have multiple one-on-ones with hiring managers, your peers, or maybe even the lead for that specific business area. When you're only presenting the case, there's really not too many things that you can go off of. Your interview is only going to be as good as the interviewer. And so you want to seed things to help your interviewer learn more about you. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people really kind of focus on a little bit about themselves, right? Their favorite things, their hobbies, and that's great and all. But that doesn't necessarily relate to the job, right? It does give folks a little idea of your personality and some commonalities, which is great for small talk, but it doesn't necessarily play a role in evaluating your performance. And so one thing that I would encourage all you all to do is to really start to think about when you're presenting yourself, talk about your impact. So what do I mean by impact? Simply stated, how did you leave the last company or last organization that you were in a better place than when you came in? A lot of times, designers are working in multiple different ways to really help evangelize what that looks like in the organization. You might be working with engineers a little bit closer to have a better output on your work. You may be working with product management to help create a better strategy that is inclusive of design and user-centered thinking. So make sure that you're starting to really be able to speak to that and really kind of speak to how that played a role in terms of the organization and the business moving forward. You see, a lot of times, those are the things that hiring managers and teams are looking for. Someone who's a self-starter, somebody that can create an impact beyond just the day-to-day work. And so if you've ever put any thought to it, if you've led an initiative, and it doesn't need to necessarily be massive, even the small things, this really starts to show your dedication to the craft. It also shows the ability that you have to engage with different people in an organization. Now, obviously, expectations are different. Someone that is straight out of college to somebody that might be 7 years into their career, but all these little details matter. A lot of times, these details don't necessarily show in the case study because sometimes case studies are very focused on a singular project And maybe in some cases, you have a limited amount of time and it doesn't necessarily allow you to show the full breadth of your work. So I would dedicate anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes. This can help paint a broader picture of your strains outside of just doing the execution work. This is also another way to help seed more questions so people in one-on-ones can dive a little bit deeper into the nuances of your thinking. Hopefully this advice can help supercharge your next interview experience and really help you stand out over the next person that might be interviewing for the same role. I'm Harrison Wheeler. Be sure to subscribe to the Technically Speaking channel below and check out the podcast here on YouTube or any place that you download podcasts. Thanks again.